Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about the cleanup crew for this big old tank. So it's been about a week or so since I dosed the Turbo Start into this tank, and I just had the water tested at my local fish store and everything's good. So it's kind of start adding all the invertebrates that are going to go into this tank, as well as next the coral and then the fish. So today we're going to talk about the inverts that I'm going to add to this tank. So number one on the list of inverts we're going to add to this tank is the Turbo Snail. Most people that go into this hobby knows exactly kind of what a turbo snail is. Just like a regular old snail that climbs up onto the rocks, onto the glass, and just eats algae all day long, and have been, a staple of the hobby for as long as I even can remember, probably even farther than that. Now, one kind of small issue I've noticed with turbo snails is that a lot of them like to just fall over sometimes for no reason, and then they can't get back up and then they die. And it's a real annoying issue that's, affected a lot of people. I honestly don't know how they've managed to survive living in the wild like this, because you'd think by now they'd probably be all extinct. But one little secret that I've learned throughout the years to kind of stop this issue is there is actually one kind of turbo snail that I've never had a problem with, and I think does a much better job than a turbo snail, and that is going to be a zebra turbo snail. Now, if you look at the shells, they actually have very different patterns. Even their feet have look a little bit different as well. So they obviously, as you can see, have a zebra-ish pattern on their shell itself, versus a regular turbo snail is just mostly gray, kind of like just regular camouflage. Now, what's really good about the zebra turbo is that, one, I've never seen them flip over, not a single time. Number two, they get a little bit bigger, I've noticed, than your standard turbo snail that you find at most stores. Number three, for the most part, they seem to hide during the day and they'll come out at night, which is really nice because during the day I don't know where they sleep. I have a really hard time finding them for some reason. But yeah, like I said, during the day, they're usually sleeping. They come out after the lights turn off, so you'll see them eating mostly at night, which is great. I don't have to see their ugly faces during the day. Whereas a standard turbo snail, they just kind of stop wherever they are and just take a nap there. Number two on the list is going to be the hermit crab. A lot of times hermit crabs get a bad rap for eating coral, which I personally have never experienced. Occasionally I might get like a weird looking hermit crab, like that's a little bit large for some reason. Those I'm generally a little wary of, but like your standard red-legged or blue-legged hermit crabs will do just fine for this tank. I personally like the blue ones. I feel like they generally stay a little bit smaller, and then they don't look as angry as the red ones. So that's a really great option there. And they do a really great job at just, picking at the little crevices, making their way all over the rockwork, and just, getting all that little detritus out. So that is number two on the list. Now, number three on the list is going to be the tiger sand conch, and this is one of my favorite snails. Number one, it's just this tiny little seashell like you see on the beach. It's not like a regular snail shell, it just looks so much better. Number two, you see the little eyes that just pop out from the sand when they move around, just kind of peeking, looking around, which is also just super cute. You also have the long elephant nose of a mouth that, just kind of feeds everywhere, and it just touches his little trunk everywhere. Also super cute, by far, hands down the cutest little snail that I have and that I personally enjoy. Now, they're not the most cheap snail. Generally here in Vegas, I think they run about like $5-7 or so. So obviously not super cheap. But the original ones I've had over the last maybe 5 or 6 years are still alive, so they do have a pretty decent lifespan that I've noticed. and they do a really good job at moving the sand in the sand bed. So they're always just kind of scooting out over the sand bed when they're moving, and then they also burrow in the sand when they sleep. So they do a good job of kind of redistributing the sand. Now, off of those first three, we have basically the tiger sand conch for the sand. We have the snails and the hermit crabs for the rocks and also the glass. So for the most part, that kind of covers everything as far as what you want in a cleanup crew. Now, there are a few kind of honorable mentions, which would be, for example, like cleaner shrimp, which, you know, are the first thing that a lot of people put their mind to when they think of a cleanup crew. Personally, I don't like cleaner shrimp just because once you have a lot of coral in the tank, the cleaner shrimp will learn at some point that it can shove its arm into a coral and pull out the food that the coral has caught. So that is a major annoyance. And then also I do have a lot of wrasses that'll end up eating those cleaner shrimp. So it's kind of pointless to buy, you know, like a $20 shrimp if it's just gonna become dinner. Now, the last, I would say more of an invertebrate and not so much a cleanup crew that I would definitely add to this tank are going to be copepods. They're the lowest in hierarchy for the food chain in the ocean. So, you know, the plankton feeds the little fish, which the big fish eat the little fish. You know, bigger fish eats that fish, and so on and so forth. And copepods are super important in the reef tank because they do kind of represent that lower end of the food chain. So what we're going to do today, I did go to my local fish store and we did go ahead and buy some pods. In these bottles, you can't really see them, but it is pods as well as Fido, and we're going to empty both of these in the tank to essentially seed the tank so that we can kind of get that copepod population going, and the tank's going to flourish a lot more in the long run. Now, some of the fish that are going to benefit from these copepods are going to be the wrasses because they have very tiny mouths, as well as the mandarin goby, which is obviously one of the fish that every Aquarius strives to keep. They feed almost exclusively on copepods, so it's really important that we have these in the tank. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully that was kind of informative. I guess this would be essentially my first top 10 list. Let me know kind of how I did in the comments. But once again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next episode. We're going to be adding some coral to the tank. See you guys. Peace.